So my job is to look at external factors, to look at social, technological, economic, environmental, and political trends to see if I can find anything on the horizon that will give us insight into what consumer values, attitudes, and behaviors will be in the future. The problem with doing futuring work is that it can be very easily dismissed as hocus pocus, nonsense, something silly. And that's where my legal background comes in. I spend a lot of time trying to build a persuasive case about why these things need to be paid attention to. I mean, when it comes to the future, you can't prove anything. Nobody knows what the future. But the way that I describe it is that market research is something that you can measure. So if you can quantify it, you're talking about the present. It's a interesting paradox to try to operate on, but you still have to find a way that makes it meaningful, that people can get their head around it and absorb it and adapt it to their work. As soon as you get into the domain of the future, numbers are no longer relevant because you get back into that crystal balling trying to predict the future. You can do a forecast, and some of those can be meaningful, but forecasts, they've become so commonplace, we tend to think that they're an exact science, but they're not. We actually forget that they are just a gauge. They are our best guess, using some old information, saying if it stays on the same path, this is how things are going to move forward. There are examples that show that history has echoes that go again over time and time again, but it never does it precisely. And so my job is to build logical cases, and that's where I rely heavily on my legal researching times, is that I create a point of view and I try to bring in evidence to persuade my audience to pay attention to it. I use a lot of statistical data when I do that, or I try to go to the experts. So for instance, when we talk about the global population and the aging population, one of my favorite quotes is that the United Nations actually maintains that the aging population of the world will be the greatest social and economic challenge that we face in our lifetime. So that you're not hearing my opinion, but it's backed by the expertise of a well-recognized global institute. I rely heavily on material coming out of the world's finest think tanks or institutions. We partner with places like MIT. We try to get insights. Stanford, Palo Alto, for insights, so that you can say, here are the trends that are happening in technology. I don't know exactly where the technology is going to go, but the experts in that domain say that collectively, if this technology reaches its full potential, it has the possibility of changing mankind as we know it. My job isn't to predict the future, but it's help to facilitate the discussions that have to fall behind such a provocative proclamation. So what are the benefits of that happening? What are the downsides of that happening? Who are going to be the winners and losers? Where will the economic benefits of that lead? What kind of social clout will come from that? What kind of technology will happen? Will that technology grow out of institutions, or will it be grassroots garage innovation? And how quickly will that technology disperse? So my role within Ford is to learn how to ask very thoughtful, facilitated discussions on taking people, helping them in that journey of seeing the future in a way that's comprehensive and vivid, that allows them to take their own intuition, their own experience, their own education, and apply it. Bollywood does pop up in my trend reading, and I haven't figured out enough to put my arms around it other than to know that it is a powerful force that's going global. And I'm interested in why people from around the world that have never taken a distinct interest in India are now getting a purview into it through Bollywood and what that means and what opportunities it might present.
Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.